This is Amy Schuster.
And I will turn things over to Amy now.
All right. Okay, again, my name is Amy Schuster. I work here at the Wisconsin Early Childhood Association. And I'm going to be one of your presenters this evening. I'm going to give you a little information here at the beginning, and then I will pass it over to Penny Chase from Supporting Families Together Association. But just a little background on what we're here to talk about tonight. So I see by the poll that Andrea did earlier that many of you are participating in the YoungStar program. I'm going to talk tonight about a portion of the YoungStar program that supports child care programs in their quality improvement process. And this is the microgrant program, which awards grants to programs to make purchases to support needs identified during your process with YoungStar. And the reason we've titled this, "It's Not Just for Kids Stuff," is because inherently when we start talking about a grant program for child care programs, we start with the kids stuff. We start talking about children's toys, children's materials, art materials, science materials, furniture, playground equipment. And by far, that is the most commonly purchased group of items with the YoungStar microgrant. But one thing I really hope to highlight tonight is that the YoungStar microgrant program is not just for kids stuff, that there are multiple uses of a YoungStar microgrant, and I hope you'll get an idea of some of those things this evening. So a little background, this is a lovely picture that I was just sent the other week from a child care program who received some lovely materials and made this beautiful display as a thank you to the YoungStar microgrant program. We really treasure getting a chance to see what's happening with the microgrant program being put into place out in the field. So as I said earlier, the microgrant program is part of the YoungStar microgrant program. And the YoungStar program has lots of facets to it, and being participants in it, you're probably familiar that it's a system where child care programs are rated based on a number of quality indicators, and based on those quality indicators, you get a certain number of points, and then your program ends up as a 1 to 5 star program within that system. It, of course, is a little more detailed than that, but I'm painting a broad picture of the YoungStar program. In support of achieving those ratings, the YoungStar program and the Department of Children and Families, which is the funder and operator of this program, has put in place some supports so that you as programs can be successful on your YoungStar path. A couple of things that they do through that system is to provide technical assistance to programs, which can come in the form of an actual person called a technical consultant who can come out to your program and work with you one-on-one to identify what you're doing really well, areas for improvement, and to put a plan in place for improvement. Some other supports that are provided to a child care program are professional development counseling services, and in addition, a microgrant is available to individuals to support their process to implement some of the quality improvements that are made along the way. I'm going to turn over now the presentation to Penny Chase at this point. Penny Chase works at the Supporting Families Together Association, and she works with many of the technical consultants that provide technical assistance in place. Technical assistance is key to the microgrant process. Technical assistance is where the development of a microgrant starts. And so Penny is going to just start by talking a little bit about that process, and then we'll roll into microgrant information. So here is Penny.
Thanks, Amy. And thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. I'm sure, like Amy and I, you've all had a long day already with the kids, so we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight to learn a little bit more about this program. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about the role of your technical consultant. That person is there to help you to achieve the goals that you've set for your program. And sometimes those line right up with the YoungStar evaluation criteria and the way we earn points in YoungStar, but we can also work with you on other aspects of programming. So one really common thing that I hear the consultants tell me they work on with family child care providers is, oh, that transition to lunch, getting ready for lunch. What are the kids doing when the provider's getting ready for lunch? And just really talking about what are some of those options at that time of day. So one message that I wanted to send this evening is that you can work with your consultant on any aspect of quality programming that you want to talk about. And I think sometimes we get really focused in on points in YoungStar and what do I have to do to get a point, rather than maybe solving some of the problems of the day. So one analogy that I like to use when I talk about quality improvement is this game that you see on the PowerPoint tonight. It's a board game, Chutes and Ladders. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with playing this game, but it's one of those games where you feel like you take a few steps forward and then you hit one of those chutes and then you fall all the way back down to the start. And so I think that sometimes when we're working on improving the quality of our programming, it kind of feels like that. You feel like you take some of those steps up the ladder and you're really doing what you need to do, and then something kind of surprises you, and then that's that chute where you feel like you're starting all over again. So one of the things that is important to remember is your technical consultant is there for you every day of the year. If you run into one of those situations where you feel like you're starting all over again, or maybe you feel like, oh, I was working on those portfolios, I thought I had it down, and now I realize I haven't touched them in a couple of months and I'm not really even sure what I'm doing with them. So just know that although we do have a 20-week window in which your consultant is assigned to work with you, you can ask questions throughout the year by calling or emailing your consultant for help. And we want you to do that. We realize that this road of continuous quality improvement doesn't just happen when you're in your YoungStar rating window with us. It's something you're working on throughout the year. Of course, we don't expect you to do that every day of the year. We've had some beautiful spring weather here. We also are glad to know you're getting out with the kids and having some days where you're not focusing in on YoungStar, of course. So as you're working with your technical consultant, one of the things they're going to ask you to do is to think about those goals and to create a quality improvement plan. And that's one of the ways that we really connect back to that microgrant program, because it's from the quality improvement plan that is created as you think about those goals, as you complete your self-assessments, that you then start to think about what might we use that microgrant for. And I really ask you to wonder about that. Think about that. Talk to your technical consultant about that. And as you do that, you can think about, how might I use this grant to reach some of my goals that might have an impact on points? Or you might talk to your consultant about some of the ways that you could use microgrant funds this year and then already have a plan in place for what you might do next year. So I think sometimes that can be a little bit common for folks too. So one of the questions that I wanted to pose was, what are some of the ways that you've used your consultation time that have helped you as you've been on this journey? And so I believe you're going to be able to type in some responses. And while we wait for those, I would just say that there's lots of ways that you can use this time. The consultant can meet with you, can observe your children, and you with them. Your consultant can help you look at a part of your space. It could be your block area, or it could be where you do your art projects. We can help you design your space in a way that hopefully will make it really work for you as you are trying to make those continuous quality improvements. Sorry, I'm just taking a look.
So somebody says portfolio development. Can you see those?
Thank you. She has helped me figure out how to assess children of all ages, birth to 5. Thank you, Amber. That's a great comment too. Budgeting, literacy activities. Thank you, Mary. Haven't used it yet. That's okay. Hopefully you'll be having some consultations soon. Yeah, portfolio development. Thank you. Everything, microgrant support. An in-service at a staff meeting, that's another great way. Thank you, Susan, to help us build our outdoor playground. Crystal, and I bet many others will say that one too. Um, Budgeting help me organize shelving systems. My technical consultant actually spent the morning in a mock rating review for 3 hours. Thank you. You know, I'm going to stop reading responses now because we have lots of them coming in. Thank you all for that. But we do have a couple other things we want to cover tonight. So I want to thank you for those responses. There's lots of different ways you can use technical consultation time. But I also just wanted to remind you of 2 other quick things. One is make sure you're doing a lot of communicating with your technical consultant. I know they're good, but they are not mind readers. So if you have something that you want to use some of that time for, please ask. Even if you kind of set a plan at the beginning of the time for your technical consultation, if you change your mind halfway through, talk to your consultant about that. And then lastly, just don't be afraid to be direct with your consultant. If you feel like, oh, I don't know if I want to keep using this time in this way, or I've made my decision about microgrant and now I'm having second thoughts, talk to your consultant. Certainly the sooner the better, but keep that line of communication open so that we can help you solve your problems as they come up. You're not going to hurt our feelings. We want to do the kind of work that you want and need us to do in your program. So don't be afraid to ask for what you need. So thanks everyone for letting me have a little of your time tonight, and I'm going to hand it back to Amy.
Thanks, Penny. The reason I asked Penny to join us is, as I said earlier, that the microgrant really begins in the process that you have with your technical consultant. And so I felt it was important to have her here, seeing as the microgrant program partners so much with the technical consultants that you're going to be working with during the YoungStar program. So let's get on to the meat of things here. I'm going to try to advance my slide. There you go. This is the numbers. This is what people want to know. How much money do I get for the microgrant program? So it depends on the kind of program that you are. So if you're a day camp program, you would get $200. Certified family child care providers get $250. Licensed family child care providers receive $500, and group programs and school-age programs each receive $1,000. I'd like to remind people that this is per year. So every year that you participate in YoungStar and a couple of the other of the YoungStar services, you would get this grant on an annual basis. And so now that we're about 4 or 5 years into YoungStar, we are already working with programs who have are receiving their 5th grant. So as long as you remain participating, you continue to can receive this money on a yearly basis. I'm going to go through a little technical piece here about how one gets the dollars. So your YoungStar process starts when you apply for or renew with the YoungStar program. So you'll get a contract on a yearly basis, you fill that out, and you need to indicate on that contract that you would like to have technical assistance. Microgrants are only available to individuals who request technical assistance. So if you choose to take an automated rating with no technical assistance, there's no grant available for you. You have to take technical assistance and go through at least a technical rating, if not a formal rating. But that's a decision you can make with your technical consultant once you get started on the process. So once you are assigned a technical assistant, they will come out to you, they will contact your program and begin coming out to your program and starting on a process of technical consultation. They'll meet with you, they'll have conversations with you face-to-face, email, over the phone, and during that process you'll do 3 things. Well, you'll do a lot of things, but these are 3 things that you'll need to do to then apply for a microgrant. And that is, first, you will need to do a self-assessment, and that's just a process where you identify your strengths, where you need help, and the next step is then developing a quality improvement plan. That plan is a plan that will identify things on your self-assessment that you want to work on. From that quality improvement plan, you will then formulate purchase plans. This is the step where you work with your technical consultant to look at your quality improvement plan and begin to make decisions about purchases with your microgrant. When you receive a microgrant, anything you purchase with a microgrant has to be in support of something that is written on your quality improvement plan.
And so here's a question. Do I need technical assistance being NAFIC accredited?
If you are an accredited program, you have the option of taking technical assistance if you want. That is always a choice in YoungStar. However, accredited programs do have the ability to skip the technical assistance process and get to a microgrant before that. They still need to contact their YoungStar office and work with a technical assistant to go through the self-assessment, quality improvement plan, and purchase plans, but a technical assistant does not have to come out to visit your program. That's for accredited programs only.
And so why does family child care get less than a group center?
The amount is based on the number of children in average in care. So a certified family child care provider and a family provider would have anywhere from possibly 8 to 16 lower. I'm getting the 3 to 8. I'm not an expert on the numbers of children in your programs, but I do know that the amounts are based on the number of children enrolled. Group programs tend to have far more classrooms and children enrolled, and so their grants are of a higher amount.
And one of our participants is reminding us that you can use the grant for NAFIC accreditation.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I'm going to be getting to in the next couple slides, but microgrants can absolutely be used towards any accreditation costs if that's a path that you are on with your quality improvement process. So my next couple slides go to exactly what a microgrant can be spent on, and this is where we get to the beyond the kid, just the kid stuff. But that's where we will start because, like I said, that's by and far our largest use of microgrant dollars is to supply your classrooms for the children that you care for on a daily basis. We do have 4 main vendors that we work with. They are Lakeshore Learning, Kaplan, Discount School Supply, and a newly added vendor called School Specialty. We're very excited about adding School Specialty to our list of vendors that work with the YoungStar Microgrant program because they're also our first Wisconsin-based vendor. And that is something that many people have been asking for in addition to just a wider range of items and choices to be made. So we ask that if individuals are going to be purchasing children's materials that they use one of these 3 vendors. And in these circumstances, there is actually, when you put together your purchase plan, it's kind of like putting together a wish list that you send to the microgrant program and then we make the purchases. The good thing about that is that because of how much purchasing we're doing, we have secured, for lack of better words, deals with these vendors, and they provide various discounts on price and shipping options so that you can get more bang for your buck if you go through the YoungStar Microgrant program. So children's materials can cover anything that a child is the main user of, and so that can be materials, it can be furniture, it can be the shelves that those items are stored on, it can be indoor items, outdoor items, large motor, small motor, art, science, any of those materials. These vendors have an incredible selection, and they all have websites, so feel free just to Google those names and you can start looking. Another thing that you can use your microgrant for, and a lot of people don't know this, but you can use it for training and professional development. So if you want to send staff or you want to attend a conference or a workshop, things like the Family Child Care Conference that just happened this last weekend, or the upcoming Pathways and WICA conferences with WICA, Model Early Learning Standards training, Pyramid Model training, a wide variety of trainings that are offered in Wisconsin, you can use your microgrant dollars to support individuals in attending. Another thing that you can use your microgrant towards are what we call adult resources. And so those are just the things that the staff would be using. So this can cover anything from like activity books to, teacher-sized chairs and furniture, staff resource rooms, supplies for that. And this is a place actually where a lot of programs choose to buy technology for their programs. So this is a place where you could purchase tablets or laptops for your staff to use to do research on new activities for children, to maybe take an online class, even for you to do your budgeting and spreadsheets on, to keep your attendance in it, do your food program claiming. This is a place where you can just buy the technology to support your staff or other materials to support the staff in the program. Another way microgrants can be used are changes to your physical environment. And this is kind of a catch-all category for programs who want to do something basically to their building that would improve the situation for teachers and our children. So this would be a circumstance where you might put a bathroom where there was none before, or you may want to knock down a wall so you have better sight and sound between two classrooms, or you may want to build cubbies because you can't find exactly the right one in the catalogs that you want. So a microgrant can be used towards purchasing materials and or labor to make those improvements happen in your classroom or your program. Some other things that microgrants can be used for are registry certificates. And this can be done in one of two ways. We can absolutely reimburse registry certificates that a program has purchased, or we have the ability to issue coupons to you so that you don't have to go through the expense of the registry, that you can have a coupon code to apply when you complete your registry certificate. Another way to use microgrants is credit-based education, and this can also be done in two ways. Many of you might be familiar with the Teach Scholarship Program. If you've participated in that, you will know that as a participant, you always have some of the cost of the scholarship charged to you and or your program. A microgrant can be used to offset those costs. And if you choose not to complete credit-based education with a Teach Scholarship, your entire microgrant can be used towards credit-based education. So you could take a course and your microgrant could be used to pay the full tuition cost. I'm going to take a breath here and see if Andrea has some questions that she wants to.
So what if I wanted to put up new fencing that I purchased from Menards?
Fencing is a touchy issue within microgrants. Fencing is often a requirement of regulation. The regulatory rules say that certain areas have to be fenced and others don't. And pretty much across the board, what we say is that fencing is an item that microgrants cannot support because of that reason. And I'll get into a little bit more about that later in a later slide.
And so can microgrants be used for outdoor environment improvements as well as building improvements?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've bought a lot of outdoor items, balls, bicycles, trikes. I know one program has used it over several years to buy pieces of playground structure. So one year they bought the slide, another year they bought the swing, another year they bought the kind of tent thing that goes over the top. So there's a lot, yeah, any items for the outdoor play environment can be purchased with a YoungStar microgrant.
And so that would include labor required to install it and all of it?
Correct. We pay labor costs if it was a professional who has done the labor. So we would pay a contractor, we would pay for a contractor, we wouldn't pay for your next door neighbor unless it was their job, unless that was their job.
Can your technical consultant purchase items without permission. I'm not sure what you mean. Can the technical consultant purchase items without your permission or without microgrants permission?
So purchases within the microgrant program, our first effort is to have the microgrant program make the purchase. We know in some circumstances that's just not possible due to the nature of the purchase. But in all effort, we try to make the purchase first. If we can't make the purchase, then we do ask a program to make the purchase and go through reimbursement. What's key in any of these decisions is that before any purchase happens, that a plan has put in place, you've had a discussion with a technical consultant, and they have approved that process moving forward. What we want to avoid is the situation where a program purchases something and because it doesn't meet microgrant regulations, won't be reimbursed. And so please, before you purchase anything, ask your technical consultant. And if at all possible, we want to make that purchase first because we have the buying power to get discounts possibly to where tax-free organizations, so we won't have to pay sales taxes, things of that nature. In all cases, the first attempt is made for a microgrant program to make that purchase first. I just want to wrap up the last three things on my list of how microgrants can be used. They're really there are other supports to, I guess, the staff of the program. So you can also use your microgrant to purchase curriculum or assessment materials. This is a common one. People buy curriculum from Teaching Strategies or High Scope, things like that. You can also purchase additional technical consultation. So if you have something you really want to focus on and you want to bring an expert in to give you some extra time outside your YoungStar time, YoungStar microgrant dollars can be used to do that. A technical consultant, a YoungStar technical consultant can help you find that person. And last, a program can use their microgrant towards staff time that is put towards quality improvement in your program. So maybe you want to pay someone a couple extra hours a week so that they can focus on implementing things on your quality improvement plan. In addition to that, travel stipends are available for individuals who maybe need that support if they're attending a training for YoungStar. So those are some really overall big headings of the ways that microgrants can be used. The details of this are described in much more detailed in a document that you can get through your technical consultant called a microgrant handbook. It really goes into what each of these means and gives you some other ideas within these categories. And we will soon have that handbook also on our website in an interactive format so you can kind of click in and out of just the pieces that you want. A couple overall things that you should consider when planning your microgrant is to remember that key piece I said earlier is that your microgrant choices should be based on your self-assessment and quality improvement plan. And so it should really be a process that you identify where your needs are and then prioritize how to spend your microgrant dollars to address those needs. And remember to ask yourself, is this the best use of your microgrant dollars? You'll probably think of lots of really amazing creative ways to use your microgrant dollars. Really take the time to weigh what is the best way to spend this year's dollars, because remember, you have next year's dollars available to you also if you continue to participate. Remember to focus on long-term quality improvement, and I mean a couple things by that. The first is think about your quality improvement not just with the one group of kids in front of you, but really what can you buy, what can you invest in that will change the quality of care you provide for this group and the next one and the next one. Additionally, think about it. Remember that you have, like I said, you'll have multiple grants over the years. So you can pick one thing this year and pick another thing next year. Quality improvement is not the kind of thing that you address it one year, you buy something, and you're done. There's always going to be the next thing. And this is really a time to focus on quality over quantity. We understand that your budgets are stretched to the limit, and when you are looking at your budget and making your purchases for your program, I know that you are all creative purchasers, and you can squeeze so much from a dollar and provide good opportunities for children in your care. But this is an opportunity with microgrants to really look at quality materials and think about buying things that are going to last over just the number of things. For example, shelving is a conversation that we often get into programs about when it comes to this example. I know that when I'm looking for shelving for my house, I look at Target, I look at IKEA, I look at a variety of places like that because they're cheap and accessible. But one thing you need to understand is that they aren't necessarily built for the use of 24-year-olds on a yearly basis. So at that point, what we really are encouraging people to do is look at materials like from Kaplan or Lakeshore or Discount School Supply or School Specialty that are, yes, more expensive, but built to stand the test of time with the children that you're using. And so in that sense, look at quality over quantity. Look at this money as a way to splurge on something that you really want to invest in. However, I also want to stress, just keep it simple. Don't try to do too many things with your dollars at once. $250, even $1,000, it can go pretty far, but you also don't want to make your grant so complicated that you're spending $10 on this and $15 on that and $20 on that. Maybe pick one or two or even three things that you really want to focus on and focus your dollars in that way. Just another little picture of thank yous that we like to get. And do people have some questions?
They do, yeah. So what if you don't use your grant? Is it use it or lose it from one year to the next?
It is. It is use it or lose it. Your grant is available to you during your YoungStar year, so your rating date to your rating date. If you don't use your grant within that time period, it will be lost. You can't bank it. You can't save it for the next year. It's use it or lose it.
And I don't know if you're talking about this later, but how long does it take to receive items once it's been submitted?
That is on a later slide. Okay. So I started off with a couple lists of all the things you can get with a microgrant. I'm just going to list some of the things that you can't get with a microgrant. We are encouraged to purchase new materials only, and so you cannot use your grant at places like garage sales, buying items off Craigslist or eBay. It's really important that we buy new materials. Also, microgrants can't be used for regular program expenses like the food you buy or the toilet paper or your utility bills. Microgrants are really intended to go to things above and beyond what you normally do. Also, we try to steer programs clear of consumable art materials, so things like paper, markers, paint. Those things are kind of your, in childcare programs, those are almost like food and toilet paper. You kind of have to have them, and they wear themselves out. So it's the kind of thing that kind of should be budgeted for on a yearly basis anyway. So we really try to steer people away from those consumable art materials. We also steer people away from maintenance. So I talked about improvements to the building. We think about those in terms of something that was not there before. If you're building it for the first time, then you can use a microgrant towards it. If it's something you're fixing, then it's not something that a microgrant can be used for. We also do not fund purchases of any appliances like dishwashers, washing machines, dryers, vacuum cleaners, things of that nature. And then I referenced this a little bit earlier, but any regulatory requirements that you have, things like licensing fees, the cost of your entry-level training, your fingerprints or background checks that you have to do on staff, those cannot be covered by microgrant. Again, this falls just under the nature of these are things that you would have to do anyways, regardless of YoungStar, regardless of a microgrant, and should be written into your budget. And then the last thing that we discourage are electronics for children. Screen time for kids is a big issue in our field, not only for child care providers, but their parents. And so in an effort to decrease screen time for children, we discourage purchase of electronic devices, things like leapfrogs, even iPads and tablets that games can be played on. It doesn't mean that there aren't good quality applications and programs and ways to use technology with children. Just in an effort to emphasize decreased screen time, your microgrant can't be used on buying electronics for children.
And there's just one clarification, I think, about the use it or lose it. We can use our grant after the yearly session time, like 4 months later?
Let me go to some important things to remember. I'm skipping ahead a couple slides. So your grant is available to your every year. When you work with your technical consultant, during that 20-week window, you will put together your plan for your microgrant and submit it to your technical consultant. They will send it to the microgrant program. We will make any purchases that need to be made. But we do understand that some of the things that we may be purchasing or paying for do not occur during that 20-week period. An example is training. Let's say right now you're working with your technical consultant and your time is almost up with them, but you know you want to take a WEMLS training in the beginning of the fall. You can put that on your plan and take that training at a later point and still have your microgrant cover it. Your microgrant dollars are available to you until your grant expires. So if there are costs incurred up until that last week, we can still, as long as it's been planned for, your microgrant dollars can cover it. It's really important to submit your full plan to your technical consultant before you're done working with them. Look at it as that's your time to put your plan together for a year. You don't have to spend it right away, but here's my plan for spending my full $1,000 and have it submitted to your technical consultant before you're done working with them. I'm going to go this one slide back. This slide just explains a little bit about what I've already said, which is you develop your purchase plan, you give it to your technical consultant. The technical consultant submits it to the microgrant program. That grant is put in line, and we process grants in the order that they're received. We address all grants within 8 weeks, but I can assure you at this point we're addressing grants in an under 3-week time period. However, volume of grants always affects how long a program has to wait. During periods of high volume, we have been around the 6 to 8 week period. During lower volumes, we're at the 3-week period. So when a grant comes into our office, the staff here take up your plans and they take action on them. And so if there are things that we need to buy from our vendors, we buy them from our vendors. If we have to contact you about a training or a credit-based education that you want to take, somebody from our office will do that and take you through the steps of making purchases and going through reimbursements. In some situations, we may contact you to ask questions. In other situations, we may not. If your plans are straightforward and we can implement them without contacting you, we do. However, if we have questions, we will contact you. Sometimes those plans that you submit to us, for all intents and purposes, we can't always complete them the way that you've asked us to. Items may be out of stock, prices may have changed, a variety of things could have happened, but we'll do our best to complete your plan exactly as you've submitted, and we'll contact you if we can't do that. We will always contact you if we made your purchases and you still have money left. We will make every effort to spend every last penny of your grant for you. And in the end, we always send you a letter summarizing what we've done.
And so here's a question about that technical consultant window. I have $150 left of my 2014 grant, and my year ends in July, but my TC has retired. If I'd like to use the funds for WEMLs, who do I contact? Would that be the
You,
regional office?
you can contact the regional office and let them know that your technical consultant has retired and you'd like to talk to a new technical consultant, or you are just as welcome to contact the microgrant program. If you have money left, that means a specialist has already worked on some of your grant and is already familiar with what you've done and can help to guide you through that process of spending out your remaining dollars. Just going to flip back. I flipped by my ice cream slide a little while ago, and I didn't want anybody to be confused about, like, I thought I saw some ice cream along there. Wish I had ice cream that I could share with you. But this is a way we like to be lighthearted about the microgrant program. You know, the microgrant program has a lot of rules to it. I'll be the first to admit that. There's lots of things you can do with a microgrant program, and there's lots of things you can't do with a microgrant program, and that's kind of like our number one question. Can I use it for this? Can I use it for that? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. A little bit I want to say about that is that the microgrant program is part of a larger program that is funded by the state of Wisconsin, by Wisconsin tax dollars. And along with that comes a responsibility to spend the dollars in appropriate ways. And one of the ways that we have been charged with making sure that microgrant dollars are spent is that they are really going to quality improvements in child care programs. That's why there's this long process of working with a technical consultant and developing a self-assessment and quality improvement plan, and then having the purchases go through a microgrant program. Many grant programs just cut checks to individuals. We were tasked with doing this a different way. We were tasked with really investigating and making sure that the purchases that we're making are investments in the child care programs towards quality improvements that programs have identified. So we track every dollar that we spend. We quantify it and we report to the state what it's getting spent on. So there are hoops to jump through for the microgrant program. But we kind of like to equate it like free ice cream day. I think I just saw something in the paper today that Haagen-Dazs is having a free ice cream day. And Ben & Jerry's does it too. And so we like to think about our microgrant program like that. It's free ice cream day. And when you come to the microgrant program for free ice cream, you can have vanilla ice cream, and you can have chocolate ice cream. You can also have strawberry ice cream. However, if you want Rocky Road, that's not the free ice cream that you can have today. If you want a malt, that's not the free ice cream you can have today. If you want a banana split, that's not the ice cream you can have today. But here's some ideas. If you want chocolate chip ice cream, you can take our vanilla ice cream and you can buy your own chocolate chips and you can get your chocolate chip ice cream. In the end, you're getting free ice cream. And so we try to look at it in the most positive light, is that there are so many ways that you can use a microgrant. Some of them are going to be yes, some of them are going to be no's, but a lot of them are yeses. And so explore those yeses with your technical consultant. Ask the questions, can I use it this way? Can I use it that way? And our technical consultants are experts in knowing what are the yeses and what are the nos, and they will guide you in that process of choosing and prioritizing and identifying the best way to use your microgrant for yourselves. Are there questions?
So are you going to talk about specifics of how you request reimbursement for a conference or training?
For conferences and training, we do that in a reimbursement. So a program or an individual will have to pay for a training. And after that training is done, you will need to send the microgrant program proof of payment, which can be a receipt, the front and back of a canceled check, highlighted credit card statement, something that shows that you have paid for the training. And also you need to submit proof of attendance. So we can get that from a registry certificate that is handed out at the end of a training. In some cases, we can even look at the registry roster that's been entered. So that is submitted to us, and once that's all verified, then we can reimburse for a training.
And so Brenda's asking, how long does she have to wait? You can do it right away after the event, as long as you have the documentation.
Yep, as soon as the training is completed, you can submit those items to us, and a reimbursement check usually takes 6 to 8 weeks. Because we have an internal financial process that we have to go through also to make sure that we're sending out dollars, like I said earlier. Just to give you an idea, here's some more pretty pictures. Does anybody know why I might have chosen these 4 pictures for this slide?
So don't raise your hand, but type
Maybe
into the chat box or the question
type into the
box.
chat box why I might have chosen these
Lily.
pictures.
No, Lily says no. Oh, variety.
Yeah, there's a variety of things. You're right. I've chosen these pictures because these are hands down like the biggest purchases of individual items that we have made in the microgrant program. We have bought more block people than we know what to do with. Magnet tiles are a very, very popular manipulative that is purchased. Science activities, especially things having to do with magnets, are very popular purchases. And really anything having to do with the dramatic play area, but specifically dramatic pretend food is something we make a lot of purchases on. And so this is just to give you an idea of some of the kids' stuff that we do make purchases of. And I also just wanted to provide some, big picture of what we've been doing here at the microgrant program. Every microgrant in the state of Wisconsin goes through this office. And so in the last 4 years, we've worked with close to 4,000 programs, close to 9,000 grants, 16,000 individual orders. That's not even, that's just an order that might have 50 items on it. And our Department of Children and Families has invested $6.4 million in these microgrants that have gone out to programs. So we call it a microgrant program. That's really micro just in the size of the microgrant that the individual program is getting, but really this is a very large grant program that is supporting programs all over the state of Wisconsin.
So one more question. So just a clarification. So Shakoya says, if we want to attend the 2016 conference, do we save the money for that event? Can you use your microgrant if it's outside of the year? So if the event isn't until after.
Right. You have to, like I said earlier, microgrant is only good for your YoungStar rating year. So this year's microgrant would only be applicable to any training completed this year. If you wanted to go to a 2016 training, then you should be thinking ahead and using your next microgrant towards that.
And any more questions? So Tiffany, I'll be posting the PowerPoint in handout form on our website, and I will send everybody a follow-up email with a link to that, and hopefully I will get the recording rendered and it will do what we have to do and get that posted. And so you can look for an email in 3, 4, 5 business days from now. It takes a little while to do that. And we'll send you the link to the PowerPoint as well. And we do have a couple specific questions. Can you see those? The tricycles are very expensive from Lakeshore.
Tricycles are very expensive, and they should be if they're gonna last for years with as many children as use them in a child care program. I would really do some price comparison between our vendors. Lakeshore has excellent materials, but so does Kaplan, Discount School Supply, and School Specialty. Several of our vendors do provide discounts on list prices, and the details of that can be very complicated, and you should work with a technical consultant to look at those numbers. But overall, our vendors like Kaplan and Discount School Supply and School Specialty offer 15% off list prices in an average. And in most situations, there's free shipping. So with some of our vendors, you can look, you can do some comparative shopping and prices. Okay.
So if there aren't any more questions, Amy and Penny's contact information is up on the screen, and I'm sure you can feel free to email them at any time with questions.
Absolutely. That's our job here at the microgrant program, is to answer the question, can I use my microgrant for? And so that's what that's what we're here to answer. And so are your technical consultants. They have that information too. And every once in a while they don't know and they stump us.
All right, well, so we'll stay here for a few more minutes if somebody does have questions, but we'll stop the recording now. So thank you everybody so much for participating tonight.